met a homeless man on the street. He passed away in a warehouse fire that was deliberately lit.
I was raped.
Abused by two grossly inoffensive staff members, discrimination and vilification towards people with disabilities.
The record is falsified, evidence is removed.
It was a betrayal, it was an injustice of social equality, it was an injustice of gender equality, it was just an injustice of everything.
Okay, we'll cue you guys in.
Jeff.
Sorry, Jeff, Lynette.
Leon, your mark.
Ready when you are, Janelle? Go.
Hello and welcome to the Injustice series. My name is Janelle De Silva and we're talking today about stories of injustice. I'm joined by Jeff, Lynette and Dave. Welcome, thanks for coming.
It's a pleasure.
Jeff, tell me what's brought you here today. Justice is a path best sought collectively, in tandem with our own values at Injustice. Jeff represents We Are Change Melbourne, an organisation dedicated to providing information and solutions for victims declaring injustice in the Melbourne area. Today, Jeff is focused on a particular victim of the healthcare industry who was allegedly arrested instead of assisted when attempting alternative treatment for his ailment.
Well, I'm the chapter head of We Are Change Melbourne. I run a talk show where I am inundated with phone calls from people who have suffered corruption and injustices. We provide solutions on how to help these people.
Fantastic, that's great. Okay, so can you share with me something or a story that's brought you here today?
Well, I received a phone call from a patient that was in a New South Wales hospital. The patient was administering a natural medicine on hospital grounds. Nurses and doctors approached. They requested that he hand over the medicine. He was compliant. He agreed with all the requests that were given by the hospital. However, they still called law enforcement and he was faced with criminal charges.
Can you tell me, Jeff, how you think justice could or should have been served in that scenario?
Well, everybody has the right to choose what medicine is administered into their bodies. Now, if there's a patient that's suffering and they are noticing good results and good gains with a medication, whether it be natural or pharmaceutical, that's their option to use that medicine, and doctors should applaud any positive results the patient is getting and factor that in.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me how much We Are Change can affect change for patients, and particularly this patient that you're talking about?
Well, we promote GoFundMe accounts. We connect patients with support networks that are going to be beneficial for their recovery. People phone through on the show regularly. It gives them a chance to have their story broadcasted. They can even post to the Facebook group and get additional information that they might be in order for receiving.
Mm. So do you think that there has been a benefit for this particular person who called in, having dealt with with your organisation?
Absolutely, because it informs other people that may be considering using natural medicines in hospital that they might end up on the same route, being forced into a criminal situation where there's charges put before the courts and they are being put in a position where they're being treated like criminals, not victims. They're being treated like criminals, and instead of being victims of the healthcare system that is using improper methods.
Thank you, Jeff, for sharing with us your story today.
Well, I believe that the We Are Change organisation would have a good union with the Injustice series, being able to share some of the series and the stories of corruption that we receive and experience here.
Yeah. Just being able to give people a forum or a safe landing place to speak is so important. Would you both agree?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Lynette and Dave? Yeah.
Somewhere for people to go.
A platform is very important
Yes.
for people that are suffering injustices.
Mm. And often being able to do that via either radio or over the online as well, is it?
That's right. I've been on 3CR radio, exposing some of the corruption that has been brought to the attention of We Are Change. I also host events in the city, such as the No Jab No Pay rally, as well as the Australia Unite for Children's Rights event that was recently held here at Flagstaff Gardens, highlighting some of the corruption, such as the mandatory vaccination policies that have been implemented. Parents want to be able to make their own decisions and not have government legislation forced upon them.
Mm. So Jeff, you seem very passionate. Can you just give me an insight as to what drives you?
Well, when I hear stories of people suffering injustices, I find it absolutely revolting that they haven't been given the best possible treatment and the best attention. The corruption is rampant, it needs to be exposed, and if there's not going to be other organisations that are going to hold a weekly talk show, well, I will definitely facilitate that, help some of the patients that are in need, promote their GoFundMe accounts, give them information and support networks that are going to be vital.
Fantastic. Have you found any blocks or barriers for all the work that you do?
Well, one of the biggest blocks is with the legal system. We have lawyers that are telling patients to plead guilty to possession of a natural medicine when they're not guilty. They're a patient, they are a victim, and it's a medical necessity. They had the only option that was to use a natural medicine, otherwise their health would be at risk. And to put somebody in a predicament where their health is going to be at risk because there's a natural medicine available, but because of a legal technicality, they're not able to access it. Mm-hmm. I find that revolting and very absurd. So that's definitely something that we're working here to expose, and I hope this isn't an ongoing problem for patients that are suffering.
Mm. The legal technicality about the natural medicine, I find, is quite, a contentious issue. And you said that the patient was from New South Wales?
Correct.
So were the laws different in New South Wales to self-administer that natural medicine?
Well, it wasn't a prescribed medicine from a doctor or medical health professional.
Sure.
It was a medicine that they acquired on their own means and were having great results with. A lot of their pain was alleviated. Mm-hmm. I mean, a nurse and a doctor should receive that and write that down on a report and note that down for further treatment. If they're getting good results, that should be definitely taken into account. Mm-hmm. And they shouldn't have law enforcement called to hospitals where they're going to be put in further trouble, legal and medical. This is going to exacerbate their health in an extreme form. And it's a duty of care, the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm. And when you're calling law enforcement to attend hospitals, that's going to put them in an immense amount of harm.
Mm. I can imagine that also that there is a psychological and emotional impact for that patient as well, having had those repercussions happen while they were still under the care of the hospital.
Absolutely, and it made the patient become very angry, and when they reached the anger levels that were too extreme, their gallbladder swelled up, and then they were administered back to hospital the next day, just because of the complications, because of this legal issue, and it actually, now they're required to undergo more medical treatment that would have been unnecessary if the police weren't called.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jeff, thank you. I mean, we could talk about so many things, it feels.
Yes, that's just one individual case. We have a number of cases that have been presented to We Are Change, and hopefully the Injustice series, the program here, will be able to network and expose some of the corruption and provide a solution for patients and people.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I really appreciate you coming on today.
Hello.
Lynette, how are you?
Hello, I'm good.
Thank you for coming in. Separation of law and business is essential for a healthy democracy. Each of these powerful entities, in whatever form they take, can overpower smaller, independent parties. In Lynette's case, a certain business malpractice was enough to take her own small business through excessive turmoil. When she sought to rectify the situation, she was erroneously charged with fines that were later upheld by a likely biased judicial system. Can you share with us your story today?
I'm a small business person. Business is doing really well, which made me think I need to concentrate on running my business properly, finance-wise, tax-wise. So I came across an accounting firm who, for I think it was $198 a month, you subscribe to them, and they give you a list of services from financial planning, watching your business, watching how money comes in and out, a big long list of about 10 items. And on top of all that, it included a tax return for you at the end of the year. I thought, this is perfect. So about 9 months goes by, and I probably had, for the 100 emails I've sent them saying, what's going on? Why hasn't my tax return been done? Why haven't I been contacted? Why aren't you answering my questions? All of a sudden, things start to happen, and my tax return gets done within 3 weeks. And I said, why has it taken you 9-10 months to respond? Oh, because we were waiting for a receipt. What receipt were you waiting for? What about everything else you listed? So my tax return is done, finally, and then I get another bill for $2,000. And what is this bill for? No reply, no reply, no reply. So in the end, I went to Fair Trading, who looked at the case, said, yes, we'll refer it to VCAT. Mediation is happening. I had so much evidence. I had every email unanswered. I had it all on the table. And I said to them, if you use numbers, I can work out how much money I owe you. And I said, here's all the sums. And it was as clear as black and white as to why I did not owe them $2,000. I said, I'll pay the $400 and then we're clear. And the mediator said, look, we really think you should take Lynette's offer. No, we're taking this to the magistrates court. So it gets referred to the courtroom. So the mediator has already said, you should take Lynette's offer. The evidence is clear. And without being gender biased, sexist, the mediator was a young guy and an older woman. And they were looking at me going, they couldn't believe what this accountant was throwing on the table. So we go up to the court, and it was a male judge. So I've got the two big accountants and the bookkeeper in their suits. I've got the judge in his suit sitting opposite him, and it's just little old me, and I'm sitting there. And the judge says, now, I don't understand what is in front of me. And I said, well, this is what I was promised. This is what I've paid. This is what I've been billed. This is what I've been overcharged. You can see in front of you. So my offer is I will pay this much. So then the accountant says something to the effects of, well, we discussed this with Lynette on day one with regard to the fees in our services. And the judge says to me, is that right? And I said, day one, I said, we're talking 16 months ago. I said, I've got emails here. So the accountant produced a document that said something along the lines of, it was all in accountant language. And I had said to them before, can you please speak to me in layman's terms? I'm not an accountant. So I've got the lawyer and the accountants, they may as well have been talking in Japanese. I said, can we all please speak in English? Anyway, and then the judge says, okay, well, Mr. So-and-so says that he spoke to you about this on day one, so I'm sorry, Lynette, you have to pay the money. And I said, can I just say something? I said, I've got all the documents here. Like, I had proof. I had pages proving one thing. No, I'm sorry, as Mr. So-and-so said, he discussed that you at your very first appointment, so you have to pay the money. It's hard to sort of express in words what went on in that courtroom, but I felt like I was dreaming. I'm thinking, I have got so much evidence here, and yet they're taking a man's word who has told the judge that he's taking me to the magistrates court and I've been served, and he hasn't. I've paid the money in the end because VCAT said I had to pay it, so I paid it that day. And I thought VCAT was there to support the general consumer, which is me. So if we put in a complaint against a big professional firm, do we then get punished because we've dared to put in a complaint and we've dared to go to small court? I cried on the tram all the way home. I just couldn't believe it. $2,000 to me is a lot of money. I couldn't believe it. I thought, where is the fair trading? And I think if I had have had a different judge perhaps, it would have been a completely different outcome. It's bizarre, isn't it? I know.
Well, it is. I mean, it does beg the question,
Yeah.
How do you think justice could or should have been served for you?
I think not so much the moral to the story, I was asking these accountants so many questions for 12 months, which they never responded to. So in the end, I had to take those questions to the courtroom with what I had in front of me to get my side of the story across and to get some sort of compensation, as in way of a reduced final bill at the end. But what I found happened was, it was more, I had to get to the courtroom to find the answers to my questions. And the last thing I said to the accountants, I took them to VCAT. They didn't take me. I took them to VCAT. The last thing I said to them was, you only had to answer my questions when I first emailed you, when I first rang you. If you had explained to me at the end, you're going to be paying this, this and this. I said, why didn't you tell me this initially? Why did I have to bring you here and go through all of this to get a simple answer? So
Did you get an answer from that question?
No, I just paid the money in the end, and I just had to go along with the frame of mind where sometimes life's not fair, And I think when something like this happens with big companies like them, I think that eventually they keep making the same mistakes. And they will make that same mistake again. And I'm presuming it will be on a lot bigger scale, and maybe they'll lose next time.
Well, I'm glad that you've taken karma into your own
I have
hands
to.
and come on today to share your story. It's really important. There are so many other small business owners out there that are either not in the same boat but heading down the same way, and do trust professionals to take on the responsibility that we choose not to.
That's why we hire them. I mean, if I ran my business the way they run their business, I would have no business.
Sure. Thank you, Lynette.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate you sharing your story with us today. Dave, tell me what's brought you here today. To steal property of any kind is an obvious injustice observed the world over, but taking a vehicle is particularly awful for the simple fact that it strips one of both a treasured possession as well as their means to continue participating in daily essential activities such as working, collecting kids and socialising. This is even more detrimental when one lives in a small country town. But what are law-abiding citizens meant to do when these laws are not only broken but in fact carried out by those meant to uphold the law themselves? Dave recounts his own experience of this today.
Yeah, in 2016, my Falcon Ute, which is in secure storage, was stolen. I've made 3 attempts to report it to the police in the medium-sized country town where I come from. My car has been missing all the way up to October last year. My wife was driving home one night and she thought she'd seen my car, my Falcon Ute. And so I got my keys out and so I put the keys in the door, opened up, and started the ignition, so off I went. And anyway, as I'm getting down the road thinking, wow, I finally got my car back, I started sort of looking about in the car and I opened the console and it was a police sergeant's badge. Police sergeant had managed to register my stolen car in his name. All the documents were in my car, the roadworthy certificate, which had comments on it about the VIN number and engine number being tampered with. Yeah, so there was a document from Vic Roads, suspect stolen vehicle check. So Vic Roads had noted that the VIN number and engine number had been tampered with, gave this form to be investigated by the police to locate the previous owners and make sure it's not stolen. Anyway, the document was signed by the police sergeant that was driving my car. So
It's outrageous.
Yeah.
it is, and it's the Vic Roads document's probably the most crucial. If his job is to locate the owner to investigate it, well, that should have happened.
Did you note the date of when that Vic Roads document was signed?
It was in May last year, so it was probably 14 months after it was initially stolen.
Right, so for 14 months it was driven.
Well, I don't know where.
Well,
so it got stolen, and they think they know who stole it, and then this guy's sold it to this police sergeant who has obviously bought a suspect vehicle with a damaged VIN number and engine number. Yeah, as part of his duties would have been to locate the actual owner, make sure it isn't stolen. I still don't have my car. What happened when I took it off down the road and realised the police sergeant's badge? Yeah, I thought, wow. So I went and seen a solicitor the next day, and they said, 2 solicitors, and they said, park the car. This guy's got it registered in his name. It's legally his at the moment. So I thought, well, you can't really mess with the police. So I done that, parked the car, and notified them. Said, here's my car. Let's sort this out. The police basically they claim that I haven't reported the car stolen. Me and my wife had tried to report it probably half a dozen times. It's got me absolutely buggered. So this police sergeant's got my car back.
When you say you tried to report it half a dozen times,
it wasn't reported in their system. Yeah, I rang the police up from another police station in the local area. My car was parked, was in a storage unit, and when I went there to make sure my car's fine, no car, so I went to that local police station, and I rang from that police station and spoke to them on the phone with their phone, and yeah, they denied that even happening. So I've made phone calls that should be on record that aren't on record. We've been into the police station and...
Did they question why, if it's not your car, why have you got keys that start the car?
Yeah, obviously, and I've got both factory Ford keys.
And that never came up in the discussion?
The way the police treated me, well, I had to prove that it was my car for a start.
Just makes sense if you've got the keys.
Yeah, so what has happened with those solicitors that you spoke to?
Well, nothing's happened since then because when I parked the car, this police sergeant's very quiet it. Yeah, 2 weeks after that, well, we're trying to find out how we go about legally sorting this out because this guy might have been a third party that bought a stolen car. But that's still my car, like, you know, I'm still the actual owner. So 2 weeks after I initially took my car back, the police had got a search warrant or whatever, and I wake up, you know, here's the police saying, where's the keys, where's the keys, where's the keys? So they're trying to acquire my keys for their mate. Yeah, which I said I denied having them at that location. And yeah, so that was the last time they arrested me, took me into the police station, tried telling me that there's no phone records to say that I'd tried reporting it. Basically, I felt like a criminal trying to get my own car back. I had every document. I've got every single document that you could possibly have, and plus the documents that were in the car, the roadworthy, the Vic Roads document, and it's still got me nowhere. I've made complaints as far as I can go, I think, with no resolve. And I still haven't got my car back. And it's been 5 months now, and there's no all emails are stopped. They're just not responding. The powers that be that are with the police and above seem to have dropped me, even though I've got all the evidence to say this is my car. It's been 5 months. I should have had my car back 5 months ago.
Dave, it's just an incredulous situation.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about. It's shocking.
And what it really exposes is really the most important thing. It's great that you can come in here and talk to us about it.
Yeah.
What do you think should be done?
Well, he should be spoken to about his actions. One of the points throughout the whole problem is within 40 minutes of me taking my own car, this guy had my picture on Facebook, boosting to the whole town that I'm this, I'm that. I can't say it was that embarrassing. There's no truth in anything he said, but he had my picture. So everyone was thinking, Dave's stolen someone's car. And so that's what he was claiming. He's claiming that I'm this and that and I've stolen his car. It's pretty damn embarrassing. We've all got to live in the same town together, and obviously my image has probably been changed now. He's a police officer. He's supposed to uphold the law. And slander is probably one of those things where they probably should button up. So he probably should be punished just for that alone. At the end of the day, all I want is my car back, but it's a police sergeant. You know, how does he get to that position with that attitude? On top of my car being stolen, I've been slandered, and now I feel a bit awkward even walking down the main street.
There has to be a law against that too. You can't just post whatever you like on Facebook about people.
Yeah, and I've got screenshots of absolutely everything. Everything's been sent off to the people that are supposed to be helping out.
You've had your reputation tarnished.
Well, my reputation's probably just, he called me things that weren't true, that it's just involving drugs. Yeah, calling me a thief.
It's really important that you do come out, and it's quite courageous after all of what you have been through, that you have come forward. Yeah. We thank you so much for coming on board and having your story heard. Yeah. Thank you, Lynette, as well, for sharing. Welcome. Jeff, what you're doing for the community.
Thank you very much. I appreciate hearing that. The recognition is very nice.
It's been our Injustice series. Thanks for joining us. I hope to see you soon.